Oh man,
there's no red dot.
I was like, I was ready.
You're ready to go.
Ready to go.
It's go time.
Hello, I'm Bryan.
And I'm James.
You're watching the Casual Try Hard podcast.
Special video episode.
That's right. First up, we're going to talk about Allied Fires because paying mana for your spells is for suckers.
That's right. I got nothing. I don't know where I was going with that. My booming voice.
That's right. It's dulcet.
Buttery tones.
Powerful. All right. Our first challenger deck we're going to talk about is Allied Fires, which is kind of the Planeswalker variant of the Jeskai Fires deck that was popular, like I said, like at the beginning of Throne.
Yeah, it would have been in Throne Standard.
Yeah, so right at the beginning.
Yep. The current version kind of isn't really the same deck.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah. The version that comes in this Challenger deck is very much the Planeswalker-centric version. They've kind of moved away from that and are leaning on really heavy 5-drop creatures.
Yeah, the Cavaliers.
Yeah. So we're going to do two different upgrades. One is if you wanted to keep it like a Super Friends list. It's a little bit more budget-friendly.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do another list that's more in line with what the current Fires lists look like.
Fair enough. Kind of the key cards. First is you get 4 Fires of Invention. The deck just doesn't work unless you have that card.
Yep.
And then you have a Kenrith the Return King. So that is your buy a box promo.
Yep.
From their
Throne of Eldraine.
Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah, they're kind of hard to get. You could only get them as a buy a box promo or in the collector boosters, I think.
And they came as non-foils in the collector.
Right.
So this is the other way to get a non-foil Kenrith the Return King.
Yep. So it's good that they're included because they'd be kind of a hard card to track down otherwise.
Yeah.
Also comes with 4 Narset Parter of Veils. It's just an uncommon from War, but she's like $3-4 a piece.
Yeah, playable in all formats in which Island is playable.
Correct. And this deck comes with 4 of them, so
yeah.
pretty sweet.
You get 1 Steam Vents. This is one of the few decks that comes with a shock.
A couple others do. Steam Vents especially is good, though.
Yeah.
That's always been an expensive shock, and some of the other shock lands got reprints, like in the Challenger decks, or not the Challenger decks, the Brawl decks.
Yes.
Steam Vents did not, so it's kind of nice that more copies are going to get out there.
And then we get 1 Ugin, who is not to be effed with. He's ineffable.
Ugin the Ineffable. Again, he's another Planeswalker from War, right around the $5-6 mark. Good chunk of value there, especially when you're only paying, $25 or $30 or whatever these things are.
Yeah, so this is fine. These are all good cards that will see play in Standard going forward and in other formats. So, if you get this, you're going to have value there.
Yep.
So now the changes
we
have on our little list here. Sorry, these are spendy.
Yeah, a little bit. Like we said, we tried to look for a budget option like we did with the previous Challenger deck upgrades, and they really didn't exist. Wizards did a good job of putting good cards in these, so there's really not a whole lot of budget-friendly builds on these. That being said, you don't have to buy all of these at once. If you need to piecemeal it out over a couple weeks, that's completely appropriate.
So the first thing would be to remove the 2 time wipes and put in 2 Shatter the Skies.
Yeah, I think Shatter the Skies kind of just a better, especially in the Planeswalker version. It's a better Wrath because you're not going to have that one creature that you're trying to save to return.
Yeah, and
with time wipe.
To get value from replaying a Cavalier of Gales or something in the creature version.
Yeah, and Shatter the Skies a mana less.
Yes.
This deck kind of struggles with early interaction. So that Wrath coming down on turn 4 instead of turn 5 helps out a ton.
It does. It gives you, usually against the faster decks, if you don't have, Deafening Clarion, you kind of get run over, and this gives you, just that extra backstop to not get run over.
Yeah.
And you can also play it the same turn you play your Fires. So you can develop and go Fires into Shatter.
Right.
And now you have a clear board, hopefully the next turn to play some Planeswalkers.
Yeah, and start taking control. The next change is kind of a big one. We're going to cut 1 Kasmina for Teferi Time Reveler.
Yes.
this list desperately wants 4 Teferis in it.
Yes, it is everything the deck wants to do. In the show notes, it's like, Brian, why does this deck want Teferi 3 so bad? Let me tell you. It digs you to your fires.
Which is big game.
It keeps you from dying because it like lets you bounce something. Mm-hmm. And then also digs you to a card.
Right.
It makes it so your fires can't get countered.
Right.
Right, you go Teferi on 3, fires on 4. You know your fires is going to resolve.
And whatever after it's going to resolve.
Yeah. Basically, it does everything but make you a sandwich as you play this deck. It's what the kind of the glue that holds the deck together.
And Teferi kind of makes you the sandwich.
He kind of does, yeah.
Yeah.
And it also just gives you the ability, like, you can keep hands that are like no fires and like 2 Teferis and be like, oh, I'm going to see 2 more cards and slow my opponent down.
Yeah.
Okay, this hand's fine.
Yeah.
And not having that does hurt the deck a lot.
So that being said, the reason we're only adding 1 Teferi right here is because they're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
They're like $23 a piece right now, I think.
Yeah.
And they're going to rotate in September?
Yes.
What do you think the prices are going to do in September when he rotates?
Be $20. Like,
you don't think he's going to dip at all?
I think that there's too much of a demand. Like, he's in blue-white control if that deck is at all playable in Pioneer.
And Modern.
And is played in Miracles and Legacy. It's just a card that's played across all formats. It will go down because there are a bunch of standard decks that are playing 4.
Yeah.
But maybe it goes to $10 or $15 more realistically. But I don't think it's going to move that much.
Okay. So if you have money to spend on Teferis, or like I said, you can do these piecemeal. You don't have to buy them all at once. But continue cutting Kasminas for Teferis, I think.
Yeah, if you can get some.
Yeah.
And also, like, the deck just lets you play whatever, like, big Planeswalker you want.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're, like, into Nicol Bolas and you have a Bolas, well, you can put a Nicol Bolas in your deck. It doesn't really matter, because once you get your fires down, it doesn't matter what the mana cost is. You just get to play it.
Yep. That's another thing that I didn't kind of put in the show notes we might want to touch on real quick, is this Planeswalker version. How does it win?
Through Sarkhan.
Yeah, what's Sarkhan do?
3 red for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. -3, you make a dragon. +1, all your Planeswalkers become... So the dragon is a 4/4 flyer.
Yep.
And +1, it becomes... All your Planeswalkers become 4/4 dragons with flying.
Yep.
And has static ability is whenever a creature attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage.
Right.
So if you can, like, play Sarkhan, make a dragon... Any X1 that attacks you just dies.
Right. Also, if you can, like, play Fire's Kasmina on turn 4 and then Sark on turn 5, you can plus them and attack with your Kasmina or whatever.
I mean, the dream, I think, is where you go, like, Planeswalker on 4 into Sarkhan plus Kenrith.
Yeah.
And then
give him haste.
Give everything haste, and you attack for, like, 13 that turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you just win through making dragons, basically.
Yep. He's your win con.
Is the A plan.
Yep.
Trying to kill your opponent's stuff and then Planeswalker value.
Yep.
People out of the game.
So version 2 of this deck is going to be a little bit more in line with like current Fires lists.
Yeah. We're
going to ditch a whole bunch of the cheaper Planeswalkers and put in some big beats.
Yeah. So we're going to ditch the Healy, Kasmina, and Sarkhan for Sphinx of Foresight and Cavalier of Flame.
Yeah, why is Sphinx of Foresight so important?
Because if it's in your opening hand, you can scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep, and it's a 4-mana 4/4 flyer. So after you've used it to dig to your fires, then you can go fires into play a 4/4, and that'll help stabilize the board.
Yep.
Then it has an ability where whenever it's on the battlefield, you scry 1 in your upkeep, so it lets you dig to your next threat, or dig to that 5th land, so you can play the other card we said you should put in here, which is Cavalier of Flames.
Now, Cavalier of Flame has a little clause in there that says you can pay 1 in a red to give everything you control +1/+0 and haste till end of turn.
Yeah, so that's a way to just kind of effectively combo kill your opponent.
Yeah, you're not spending mana on your spells because of fires, in which case you have a whole bunch of extra mana kicking around.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of pump your whole team and kill them all in one turn. Like if you untap with a fires in play, you can almost kill your opponent outright the next turn.
By almost, like, oftentimes they're just dead.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Good talk. Going away from the kind of like Planeswalker version,
a
lot of the decks now aren't playing like the Fae of Wishes Wishboard.
Right.
So we could cut some Fae of Wishes for some Kenriths.
Yeah, now Kenrith is also big game. He's got a whole bunch of abilities on here, and the ones that are in color are fantastic.
Give haste and trample for red.
Yep, let you draw cards for blue, let you gain life with red.
Yeah, so the gain life is...
Not with red, with white.
White.
Yeah.
So the gain life is how you, like, stabilize against
Yeah.
Mono red. The draw card just lets you get to more action later in the game.
Yep.
All in all, good.
Yep. We're also going to round out some of the spells.
Yeah.
We're going to take some of them out of the deck and then add in some more threats. This deck is really threat dense, the current version is. So we're cutting the Ugin, all of the Omen of the Sea, and both Drawn from Dreams, for 2 Dream Trawler, 2 Cavalier of Gales, and 3 Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah, so the Dream Trawler is kind of the, like, unbeatable threat in the format right now. Cavalier of Gales is just a big flying idiot that lets you draw cards.
Not only, it does let you draw cards, but it's kind of more important than that because it lets you dig to more gas.
Yeah.
Like, kind of the same thing we were talking about before is a lot of times when you play your fires in your first threat, you might have a hard time finding, like, your follow-up turn. If what you play after your fires is a Cavalier of Gales, it can find you whatever you're looking for next, whether it's a Cavalier of Flame or a Kenrith or a Dream Trawler.
And then Bone Crusher Giant is early interaction that then kind of doubles as a threat or blocker.
Yeah.
That's why those are there. So you can, like, turn 2, kill a creature, turn 3, they'll have a blocker.
Yep. Now, same as version 1, we really want some Teferis in here. And I would say trade the Narsets for Teferis here.
Especially since you've moved away from the Planeswalkers, Narset finds a lot less.
Right. Yeah, but, I mean, Narset's still, like, a reasonable card in this deck.
Yeah.
It's just Teferi's a lot better. So if you can swing them, buy some Teferi, stick them in there, but, you know, I understand that's, you know, $80-something in Teferis.
For a card that's going to rotate not too long.
Right.
Some changes to the sideboard.
Yeah, I didn't give exact sideboard numbers because that's kind of up to the meta a little bit.
Yeah, and where things sit.
Yeah, so because we're moving away from the wish board, we're pretty much going to throw the whole sideboard in the trash. And I'm going to give you like 5 options to kind of round out the board, and you can kind of fill in whatever numbers of them you want. The first is Elspeth Conquers Death.
Yeah.
Especially with Teferi, is like A+ good time.
Yeah, you get to play it, bounce it, and if you have a fire set, just play it again.
Yeah. Also, it can rebuy your Teferi.
Yeah.
So, like, if you neg, kill something off, they end up or you play your Elspeth Conquers Death, they end up killing your Teferi. The last chapter can bring Teferi back.
Also, like, I've seen people in, like, blue white control cast Shatter of the Sky, and then let their Elspeth Conquers Death get their Dream Trawler back.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit bigger.
Yep.
And you got to clear the board, and now you have the only threat. So that's another option.
Yep.
Things to do. A lot of times when people play the deck, against the deck, they want to bring in ways to, like, deal with your fires. And so a lot of times you can try to go under that.
Yeah, so if you think your opponent's going to go, like, real big, bring in some big heavy-hitting removal spells, or, like Bryan said, ways to deal with your fires, your deck really isn't very efficient if you're not on that plan.
Yeah.
So you want to try and bring in some things that you can do early in the game. And I think the consensus best thing to do right now is, like we talked about earlier, the Bone Crusher Giants in the main, but also some Legion Warboss in the side.
The other card that kind of fits in the spot, too, is Robber of the Rich.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the other card that is the, like, low to the ground answer.
I think Legion Warboss is kind of like an army in a can, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you untap once or twice with it, even if your opponent can deal with the War Boss, you've still got some value on the board that they have to deal with. I think War Boss is a pretty good go-to here. And, I mean, like you said, Robber of the Rich isn't an embarrassment either, but it's a little bit harder, I think, to make work than War Boss is.
Yeah.
War Boss is kind of easy mode.
Yeah. Then you have Tidetaker, kind of a threat, kind of a way to, against, like, counterspell decks, just gum up the works. It's something that they have to answer. And it makes it so it's harder for them to counter your spells. So especially if you're, like, on the play, like, your Tidetaker then is going to protect your fires against, any 3-mana counter spell.
Right.
And if they have, like, a tap land as their third land, then they can't even Dovin's Veto you.
Right.
It's just a way to, like, make things difficult for control.
Yeah, it also, like, randomly leaves bodies behind, like, after a Wrath, after a Clarion or a Shatter of the Sky or whatever, so it can get you a little bit extra value that way.
Yeah. Then Deafening Clarion and Shadow of the Sky if you want more wraths, just more ways to keep the board clear.
Yeah.
And Deafening Clarion's also good in this deck, in the main or the side, for the lifelink part of it.
Yeah.
Because you play like, you know, a 5/5, you give it haste, and then you give it lifelink.
Right.
So it lets you then gain some life and again stabilize against red. Like you've killed their board and you've gained 5 life.
Yeah, you went from, you know, a critical 3 or 4 life up to, you know, 7 or 9 life.
And they lost 2 creatures or whatever.
Right.
So it's good in this deck. And then Shadow of the Sky if you just need more of that effect.
Yep.
Here's where you put it.
Yep. The last card is a Mystical Dispute. Should kind of be a no-brainer against control decks.
Yeah.
It's tough to play when you have a Fires out.
Yeah.
It's impossible to play when you have a Fires out.
Yes, very tough.
It does help you get there, though.
Yeah, it's more for forcing your fires through.
Right.
It's more for, you know, if you're playing against a Thought Erasure deck, it lets you tag the Thought Erasure so you can keep your fires.
Right.
And if you can play like a turn behind and play like fires and then counter their counterspell on 5 to get it down. And then the next turn is when you can start going off with all of your big threats.
Yeah. Also, like one thing to think about when you're building this sideboard is you can kind of pivot a little bit. Like if it's a matchup where either you don't expect your fires to be good or you don't expect your fires to resolve or stick around, maybe you sideboard some of your fires out.
Yeah.
And you can lean on like Legion War Boss, some of your Wraths, Mystical Disputes.
Yeah, you can become a leaner, more aggressive deck to punish your opponents for going big.
Yep.
Or you can kind of fight that control game a little bit.
Yep.
Until you find the right spot to like turn the corner.
Yep.
In the description, we have some links to these upgrades built. So if you just wanted to go to TCG Player and buy those cards, we have it all set up for you. James spent many hours using the internet.
Was tough. I learned exactly how unsavvy I am with this kind of stuff. I am quickly realizing that I'm becoming an old fart.
Yes. James is going to start paying like kids to come over and like set his VCR or whatever.
It keeps flashing 12 at me.
What did I do wrong? Help.
Well, thanks for watching Allied Fires. Make sure you check out the other videos for Final Adventure, Cavalcade Charge, and Flash of Ferocity.
Those decks make you pay for your spells. Not cool.
Well, right, but Flash of Ferocity at least let you play on your opponent's turn.
Fair.
Yeah.